Our journey into the underworld land of goblins was to begin within the blue elven lands of Lothfreeman. This was a wondrous place, full of latent elven magic. And, more importantly, this was a portal into the ancient goblin underworld. As soon as we entered, we could see that the rough, badly hewn passages had withstood the passage of time. Even now, after an age of manfolk passing through the elven shadows, goblin blood marred the walls of this now forgotten realm. Inside this underground world, we found traces of a war long since past. Evidence of goblin shamans fighting the wizard folk could be seen petrified into the walls. Evidence of a fireflash fight between the dwarven seers and the goblin armies of Morgullen could clearly be seen embedded in every crevice of this craggy rock. We stood and looked, aghast that such wonders were still visible even today. This had been no ordinary war of the underground. This had been one of the mightiest battles of all times. White elven mana was left clinging to the walls. This was good magic, and at least one of us was able to smile. But deeper into the underground we found the disturbing signs of a darker goblin battle, with goblin blood and wizened mana strewn along the walls. It was time to leave this part of the underworld and return to the elven lands of Lothfreeman. It was not long before we happened upon another entrance to the underworld. This one was almost hidden with latent elven enchantments, but this was not strong enough to prevent our entry. Beyond the short passage was a giant chamber. It was rare for the elves to look underground for anything, but here the sunlight streamed through the cavern from magical portals in the roof, and so it came to pass that we had found our very first elven mine. We left this lush cavern and found ourselves high above the woodland valley. Our journey onward and upward quickly found us another entrance. This was an old dwarven iron-worked mine. Evidence of dwarven labour could be seen as we looked around. And then, once again, we found evidence of a terrible war, a battle, this time between the mountain dwarves of Minid Dúlin and the goblins of Moldarad. We left the blood and continued up the mountain and found another portal to the underworld. Once again, the cavern was decorated with goblin blood. This was a shame, as here once lived the cave fairies. We even found the fairies' swimming pool, now long since dead, poisoned with goblin blood. Suddenly we were blessed with an elven light to strengthen our resolve, as we passed again into the dominion of the ancient goblin lair. Goblin blood flowed freely down the walls before our very eyes. When we turned to look, we could see that magical elven light was keeping this evil firmly suppressed in this dark land of the underworld. Outside, we were close to the summit of the mountain, and a short push took us over the top and down towards our next adventure. It was, however, very scary. Close to the hidden elven lake of Shiredale, we happened upon several goblin death pits. We scrambled down, and sure enough we found more evidence of goblin fighting from an age now long past. The walls of these passages were heavily spelunked with blood and mana, and so we headed out to continue our journey along the rocky stream bed of the Elven Waters. These waters would eventually lead us to Fairy Falls. Here we found more portals to the underground. This was strange, as we first found yellow enchantments in the rocky walls. We found petrification of goblin blood. And then we found the white manor of the Elven Warlocks, a strange and bizarre place to be. Here there had been a clash in the Middle-earth factions, another battle for the underworld. This was not the first time we had seen this stuff of magic and legend, and so we made our way back out. This entire area was riddled with caves and mines leading to the underworld. The goblins had certainly been very busy during their invasion of this elven land. But, to our surprise, we found the long-lost dominion of the Crystal Fairies. We looked upon their magic with wonder and amazement. This was a moment of true magic. And yet, in the cave next door was the remains of another bloody battle between the goblins and the elves, and even in all this devastation, the dominion of the Crystal Fairies had remained untouched. Final proof that fairy magic is the strongest of all enchantments. We left the last battleground of the goblins and found ourselves by the falls of the Water Fairies. These underground fairies lived in a hidden cave behind the waterfall. This was a truly fantastic sight to see. Our minds lost in wonder and enchantment, we left this underground place. And we headed back home.